The NBA has spoken. Nikola Jokic lands at the top of the mountain when it comes to who is the best player in the NBA. We're going to talk about that. And are there other players in contention for this spot? Also, in the annual NBA Insiders Survey, the Denver Nuggets were given some odds to win the NBA title this next year. Where should those odds be? How excited and how confident are you about this upcoming NBA season? We got a lot of stuff to get into, including Fred VanVleet going down with the injury that I think absolutely impacts the Nuggets season. We got more to talk about here today on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Locked On Nuggets. This is your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, and we are less than a week away from Media Day in Denver, and y'all, it is going to be a time. Cannot wait until we get there. But today, we're going to talk about the NBA survey. Nikola Jokic lands at the top of the survey. I think that has some implications about what to expect from this season, and also will he be able to hold on to that spot as well? The Denver Nuggets, they got some love in the title odds as well. We're going to get into that, the Fred VanVleet injury. First off, just welcome to the show. I'm Swiper. So glad to be here with y'all today. Y'all, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. What's going on, ladies and gents, everybody that's out here in the world watching Locked On Nuggets, everybody that said we're a month away. We are 1 month away from NBA basketball, and the regular season is getting started, and the brand new look Denver Nuggets are on the way to trying to win their second title in team history and second title in the last 3 seasons, y'all. This is going to be quite the season. But, y'all, I don't know if you know, but Tim Bontemps, every summer, he does an NBA survey in which he collects information from around the league. And in this estimation, he asked 20 coaches, scouts, and executives and polled their responses on several different issues. And at the very top of the survey, the first question is, who will be this year's NBA MVP? And the odds that were given and the numbers that were given, 7 of these executives and insiders and scouts and coaches selected Jokic. 5 selected Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 4 selected Luka Doncic. 2 selected Victor Wembanyama. 1 selected Giannis Antetokounmpo. And then another selected Anthony Edwards. So of the 20 votes, Jokic got 35% of them. Of the 20 votes, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander got a good amount of them his way. So Jokic gets 35%, Shai gets 25%, Luka then gets 20%. So we really see there's like a tier. Jokic, who many feel, as we'll talk about in a minute, is the best player in the world. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander coming off in MVP and then dealing with all the stuff that's kind of going on with winning the title, winning the scoring award, all that stuff. And then on the other end, you got Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic and this new look opportunity he has with the Los Angeles Lakers, which I'm actually really excited to kind of see just what that season is going to end up looking like for Luka. I'm excited because I think there's going to be a lot of really great opportunities that are happening for them. So it's going to be really good. Really excited to see that. But Nikola Jokic lands at the top, y'all. I think that if you look at where Nikola Jokic is currently, there is a great reason to believe that he can win the MVP award next year. Now, if you ask me, and I thought about who I think is going to be able to win the award, I think Jokic is a good bet to win. I think that if you just kind of evaluate the field and you evaluate where he stands currently in the league, right now, 2025-26, you can find on FanDuel, Jokic is a plus 350 to win the MVP. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has the leading odds of plus 150, and then Luka Doncic at plus 380. Now, Shai, incredible player in his own right. he's going to be on probably a 60-win team again, maybe 65-win team again. He might lead the league in scoring again. So that is going to be very tough odds for him and trying to overcome that for Jokic. But on the other end, I do think one of the things that's going to aid Jokic this year is that because the team around him is better, because they should be in a situation where they're not going to be fighting and scrapping in order to win 50 games, they might win and be pushing to win 57, 58 games this year, maybe, or 55. And then because of where they are in the league, they might even be able to push themselves to the 2 seed this year, depending on how hard they push, or the 3 seed. And you put all that together, and if Jokic, I think, based on if you heard me talk about this before, I think that Jokic's season this year is going to be a mix between the 2023 season and 25 season. I think Jokic is going to be about 26 points per game this year. He's going to be 12 plus rebounds again a game this year. But I think the assist total, he's going to be closer to 10.5 assists this year because of the amount of talent on the roster. He'll also be around 2 steals a game again this year. So if Jokic has these insane numbers, so last year without heaves, he shot a 67.2 true shooting without heaves, a 67 with the heaves included, shot 22 heaves last year. If Jokic has another season where he's shooting 41, 44% from 3, and on top of that, he's shooting 63% from 2, maybe even higher because some of that floater range area wasn't as high as it's been in the last several years. If he shoots a 69 true shooting next year and averages a triple-double, and the Nuggets are winning 55, 57 games, yeah, I mean, we're gonna be in really interesting territory with Jokic. And I think that will give him a lot of ammunition to be able to win the MVP award. And especially because, if you look at a lot of the analytical numbers, again, the on-off stuff will probably be the same, like a big swing in the on-off. But what I'm hoping is if this year with Jokic, because of the level of talent on the roster, I'm hoping that his on-off is going to end up being even higher this season, in part because the team around him is just going to be functionally better. Hopefully, one of the things that shouldn't happen, that they shouldn't have these crazy lulls like they did last season, where it's just when Jokic is like not on the court, they're completely falling apart, and they're still really good with them, but it's just not like what you want to see in total as a whole. And then Jokic, it was a plus. There was a plus 19 difference last year in his on-off, which is obviously just incredible in the regular season. There's a plus 17 on-off when I'm looking at a Basketball Reference in the playoffs. And so hopefully the idea is that the team is going to be able to be in such a good situation that they'll just be able to not just be able to survive, but actually be able to find some winnable minutes without him. So I'm excited to see what the season looks like. And we're going to start this section here, but we're going to end it in segment 2. But one of the biggest things that I've heard a lot of commentary about is the question was asked, who is the best player in the world? Who's the best player in the world? And y'all, Nikola Jokic ran away with this, where he only got 35% of the vote on MVP. Jokic got 95% of the available votes on the best player in the world. Again, coaches, scouts, media people, 20 of them, 19 of them said it's Jokic. And if you read the section in Tim Bonkin that he wrote, it said that while there's been a nip and tuck battle for MVP between Jokic and Gilgeous-Alexander over the last few seasons, which is 2, our survey projects another. There was little debate about who the single best NBA player is at the moment. That would be Jokic, as the Thunder star and reigning MVP didn't receive any votes, and only a stray one for Doncic separated Jokic from becoming the first unanimous selection for this honor across the 7 years the survey has been conducted. For just about every voter, there was little hesitation in picking Jokic before moving on to the next question, a nod more to his remarkable run than a slight at Gilgeous-Alexander or anyone else. Quote, as long as he's walking and breathing, one East executive said of the Serbian superstar, it should be him, end quote. While Jokic wasn't a unanimous choice, he is the first player to be selected for a 3rd time, edging Antetokounmpo's top finishes in 2021 and 2022. This is the segment that has had, I think, Twitter and media people not in an uproar, but simply asking, should Jokic have dominated that category of having 95% of voters say he is the best player in the world? We're going to talk about this on the other side, because I think there's a lot that goes into this. A lot of it based on the historical precedence of what Jokic is doing. A lot of it based on a projection of what he will do and what the team will do. But also, it says a lot about, I think, where Jokic is historically, and just how dominant of a run he's been on over the last several years. We're going to talk about all that and more here at Locked On Nuggets. Y'all, there's a lot happening and a lot going on in our world, and it is so important that you work with people that care about your finances. Most people can't name all the financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Now, Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Again, y'all, I've used Monarch Money for years. They have helped me save so much money, because when I didn't realize that I was paying, for instance, for the Washington Post, $37 a month for that subscription, they helped to see it, let me know that I can get off of it. They even have an option in Monarch Money that allows for you to have them get you out of the subscription themselves. It is an automated process for a lot of the different apps and different subscriptions you have. So if you want to maximize your investments, increase your savings, easily review your finances with your partner or your financial advisor, and keep a clear view of your financial health, this is the place to be, both on a week-to-week basis and a long-term planning basis as well. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off for your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA. We'll be back for segment 2 here at Locked On Nuggets. We're back for segment 2 here at Locked On Nuggets. Shout out to you all. Thank y'all so much for being here with us today. Make sure, if you're watching this on YouTube, give us a like, share, and subscribe. We're on the way to 15,000 subscribers, you all. I want to see if we can get there by the end of this season. I believe we can. This community is growing and growing. Make sure, if you're listening to this on the audio side, give us a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple iTunes. That way more and more people can listen to the great content being made by Matt Moore, Ryan Blackburn, and myself, Swiper, at Locked On Nuggets. Y'all, so Nikola Jokic, as I said, he was voted the best player in the NBA. Best player. Best player. That, for me, says a lot. And it is the fact that he was so staunchly voted as the best player that I think solidifies just exactly what it is we're seeing. Now, just like Bontim said, I do not believe this is a slight to Luka Doncic or Giannis Antetokounmpo or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Jason Tatum. It is not a slight to any of these historically great players in their own right. But I do think that sometimes, audience, we get lost in, Jokic in this playoff, for instance. He didn't have like the playoffs that we all were hoping he would have. Now, he was dominant. Again, I'm never going to let people just wash it under the rug. He's the first player ever to have 2 40, 15, and 5 games in a playoff series. He had 42, 22, and 6 in game 1. He had a 27 and 13 game in game 4. He had a 44, 15 and 5 game and 2 steal game in game 5. Had a 29 and 14 and 8 and 2 game in game 6. And then he was on the way to a great performance in game 7, but the wheels just kind of fell off in the series. But all the way around, I thought he had really good games. And then he had a 36, 21, and 8 game. In the series versus the Clippers. The Clippers played, including Zubac, played stupendous defense over the course of that series. He averaged 24, I think 11 and 11 or 12 and 11 in that series. So I get it. You want to see like this historic level dominance from him at all times. And I think that's where the biggest criticism kind of comes from right now with him. It's just like, man, he's only won 1 title. He's got 3 MVPs. And he honestly, if you ask me, should at least have 4 MVPs. I think I understood why SGA won last year. He was clearly, from a narrative reason, robbed in 2023. I think that's been like the consensus feeling for a lot of people since that point. But I do think that like he should have won at least 4 or 5 MVPs. And with that, there is an expectation and a hope that if you have a player of this status, they win another title. But I would argue in the 2023-24 year, Jamal Murray was clearly injured in that playoff, had a bad series versus the Wolves, had a really good game 7. Nobody scored more than 7 points in that game 7. I think they win that series, they move on. I think they win the title that year. Then this last year, obviously with everything with Malone and Calvin Booth and the injuries and Aaron Gordon not being healthy, only playing 51 games, and he wasn't healthy in half those games. And then I think the depth issues they had, they knew they had problems. But the thing that changed is this year. The thing that changed is this year. The Nuggets realized that they had to add more depth to the roster because they do have a player that for me and for many feel he is the pinnacle of the sport. So what do we need around him? We need a backup big that can at least somewhat replicate his kind of value in production. We need another shooter that's cheaper, that's a better defender than Michael Porter Jr. We need another shooter off the bench that's a veteran and knows how to play in Tim Hardaway Jr. We needed to add another 4 that can play with Jokic without Jokic, a super athletic that can also space the floor and rim protect De'Ron Holmes. And then on top of that, we needed to get Bruce Brown back. And we're in a situation where he's a backup point guard back, and he can be the combo guard next to Murray. The Nuggets said that, look, the starters were good enough. The starters were better than the Clipper starters. They were better than the OKC starters. But the issue is that when you played versus the Clippers, they were bringing Bogey and Batum off the bench. When you played versus teams like Thunder, they were bringing off Wiggins, and Alex Caruso was coming off the bench. And then they had who else was it that made the threes? Kendrick Williams also, but then they had, I think it was Mitchell. Like, they won the game. I think that was game 3 or game 4. The Nuggets could have gone up 3-1, and they had 3 players come off the bench and hit threes, and that changed the game, which ultimately changed the outcome of the series. So I think, to your point, this is it. The Nuggets starting 5 can hang with anyone, and that was a fact last season. They literally lacked the guys off the bench, and the Nuggets gassed out. So I think some of this is Jokic is not asking for a historically great team. But I do think he's been looking for a competent team that knows how to play, when to run, when to cut, how to play defense. You know, I rewatched Game 5 just the other day from the series between the Thunder and the Denver Nuggets. Man, like, there was a play when they were running the zone. You know, the Nuggets had an 8-point lead in the fourth quarter. And, you know, Michael Porter Jr., who also was dealing with injury and wasn't shooting well, he was just not himself. He averaged 7 points a game in that series. Backside, like, they were running the 2-3 zone, and they literally, like, his responsibility was to collapse on the short roll. That way iHeart wasn't just going to get an easy lob dunk. But Porter just would get so lost defensively that the whole team, like, stopped in their tracks and just kind of looked around and said, like, well, what is happening? And I think Cam Johnson, the idea is that he is a high IQ player who knows his responsibility, wants to commit to a role, is able to replicate elite level shooting, be a better defender, worse rebounder, but somebody who just knows where to be on the court that can really offset a lot of the ways defenses are trying to target the Nuggets, but also offset the way that other offenses are run. And so now you have a dude that, you know what, you can send Christian Brown, Aaron Gordon, and Cam Johnson and feel competent that, hey, they can hold up defensively. And I think for me, I'm curious to see how much Cam gets back to the Suns level defender that he was. Because Cam Johnson, at one point, was like one of the upper tier wing defenders in the sport. Now, he had Mikal Bridges with him, obviously. DeAndre Ayton was really good at that point in time. Chris Paul, Devin Booker. I mean, Chris Paul and D Book were okay defenders, but more so it was Cam, Mikal, Jay Crowder, and then it was also the fact that they had a really good rim protecting big. And I think the Nuggets are hoping that, coupled with the new influx of talent, Jokic is able to not just hold and maintain this level, but he can even find another level to get to this year. So I don't know what that looks like, but I do think there will be a better version of Joker we see. And again, if that's even just on the defensive end, and he's not having to play 40 minutes a game through December to keep the thing floating in the ship alive, and also Jamal Murray looks like he's in great shape as well. Like, if Jamal Murray comes into the year and he's ready to rock, I mean, that changes everything. Because if Jokic doesn't have to be what he was last December, like I said, he was like a 30, 13, and 12 player basically, and like then cool. Like he didn't have to worry about that. And now Jokic can kind of settle back into what he wants to be, which is being more focused on like distribution, taking key shots instead of just kind of dominating as a scorer all the time. So I think Jokic deserves it. Again, these are individual votes, so 19 and 1 in terms of the voting account for who's the best player in the world. I just think most of us think that he's the best, and so that's kind of why the vote reflects that. But on the other side, we're going to talk about the Fred VanVleet injury, because I think that matters for the Denver Nuggets a lot, and I think that shapes the Western Conference in some really, really drastic ways. We'll talk about all that and more here at Locked On Nuggets. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Now, I love using FanDuel because y'all know I love same-game parlays. I love being able to look at the slot from 1 p.m. games in the NFL and 4 p.m. games in the NFL and Sunday night football in the NFL and Monday night football in the NFL and Thursday night football in the NFL. And I like to be able to look at it and say, all right, I'm going to combine Thursday night with the 1 p.m. slots. I'm going to find the best games that I think are guarantees to win, and I'm going to select those and then see what happens. And FanDuel makes it easy and quick for you to do that. And it adds a little bit more energy to your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. We'll be right back for the final segment here at Locked On Nuggets. What's going on, y'all? We're back here for the final segment of Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper. This is your team every day. Y'all, I just want to tell y'all, man, we really appreciate y'all rocking with us this summer. You know, this has been a long offseason, had a lot of early news in June about the Nuggets, and ever since we kind of just been trudging along, talking about Eurobasket and stuff, but we're 1 week away from having real up-to-date 2025 NBA basketball content. But y'all, so we're in a situation now, man, where Fred VanVleet, you know, he goes down, and that for me is a injury that absolutely shapes the rest of the West. If you ask me, I had the Thunder, the Nuggets, and the Rockets as the clear tier 1 of the Western Conference, and arguably the 3 best teams in the NBA as a whole. But now, Fred VanVleet is the primary ball handler for the Houston Rockets. He is their primary pull-up shooter. He is their best playmaker. And this is the dude that in the playoffs, he was saving their games. When Fred VanVleet in the playoff this year started getting hot versus the Golden State Warriors, he was the one that helped drag them back into that series. He averaged 19 a game last year, 4 assists, 4 rebounds. He shot 43.5% from 3 in that series on 9 attempts a game. And he shot 100% from the free throw line as well. Like, Fred is honestly, truly like amazing player. He is arguably the best undrafted player in the history of the league. So the Rockets are now relying on Reed Sheppard, second year out of Kentucky, to be the lead ball handler and primary decision maker for that roster that just added Kevin Durant. And then if you look at the rest of the Rockets roster, they don't have other guards they trust. Aaron Holiday is their only other point guard behind Reed Sheppard on the roster. That's it. He's the only one that you actually consistently want to play. So then you're going to have Reed Sheppard, Amen Thompson, Kevin Durant, Alperen Sengun, Jabari Smith, Steven Adams, Torrey Eason. Like, I think this changes the way the West is formatted. And for the Denver Nuggets, I already thought they had advantages over the Rockets, especially in a playoff setting and especially in a half-court offensive matchup. This is actually a series that I really think Jonas Valanciunas and Jokic would see the bulk of their minutes together in the games in the regular season and also in the playoffs. And this is still going to be true. I do think the Rockets are going to counteract this loss by playing bigger more often than not. That way they can rely on truly elite defense, truly elite offensive rebounding, and really trying to rely on transition. Because if you have Amen Thompson and you have Torrey Eason, Kevin Durant, Jabari, and Sengun, you don't have a true point guard. But what you do have is a bunch of dudes that can defend, a bunch of dudes that can run, and a bunch of dudes that know how to actually compete on the offensive, defensive glass. And that would count for a lot. And I think for the Nuggets, this is yet another opportunity for them where I think that Denver, if you ask me right now in a 7-game series, who's my favorite to win an NBA title, I think it's Denver. And not only do I think it's Denver, but if you look at the survey that Tim Bonkins put out that asked who should be the favorite to win the title this year, OKC got a majority of the votes. They got 18 of the 20 available votes. They just came off a championship. They won 68 games last year. They're super young, super athletic. I understand that wholeheartedly. But again, if you ask me, I think Denver should have won that series, and let's say could have if they were fully healthy. And again, Jokic wasn't good enough in game 3 to close. And then in game 5, nobody showed up to the party except for Jokic in the fourth quarter. And then in game 7, obviously Aaron Gordon's injured, Russ is injured. I mean, it's just the team was debilitated. I think that this year, the league is saying the two favorites to win the title are the Thunder and the Nuggets. And I think this just further cements that those teams, for me, are the creme de la creme of the NBA. I think that the Nuggets are going to have more versatility than they've ever had. I think that the offense is going to be elite, obviously. But what I do want to find out is defensively how they're going to continue to get better on that end. Now, some of this is as simple as David Adelman developing the scheme that they need to have in place to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. Jokic on the defensive end, I think shoring up the footwork and all that kind of stuff and coming into the season ready to go, obviously with everything with that. And again, in 2023-24, they were the 8th best defense in the NBA. They were a top 5 rim defense and a top 5 3-point defense. But KCP was on that roster. So they've shown they can do it. Christian takes another step as a lead ball handler, and something that Ryan Blackburn said, the genius he said in an article he recently wrote about Christian Brown. If Christian takes his 3 points per 100 3-point opportunities from 4 3-pointers per 100 possessions to closer to 6, 7, or 8, one of the things that will help him with is his legs and being able to be an even better defender. I think Christian should take a step as a defender this year. One of Christian's goals this year, he was an amazing offensive player last year, played good defense in stretches, and especially in the playoffs. His goal should be, I want to make an all-defense team this year. If Christian commits to being an all-defensive level player, that will change things for the Nuggets. If Cam Johnson and Aaron Gordon are both healthy, and especially when they're all playing together, they should commit to Aaron Gordon getting back to 2023-24 defensive levels. To Cam Johnson, how can you replicate the defensive tenacity that you played with when you were with the Suns? Can you find a way to become that wing defender again? Can you find a way to really become the kind of player that you need to be on defense to be able to really make a difference? And Jamal has never been a truly great defender. But what Jamal did do at his apex is that he became a player that it was really difficult for you to take mismatches against him unless you were like LeBron James or something like that. And LeBron was hunting him in the Lakers series. But Jamal held up pretty well versus Tatum and versus Jaylen Brown. And he would hold up versus some other wings better. So I think if the team makes a commitment that we're going to show more effort on the defensive end, then yeah, they're putting themselves in a very different situation. And I think in a regular season format, they don't have to have stretches where they're top 3 or top 5 defensively, but they do need to have stretches where they're top 10, top 12. And then on top of this, y'all, last year they had a 127.7 offensive rating with Jokic on the court. Y'all, if I told you that this season they're able to have a 129 because of the improvements to the roster, because of the additional shooting, and because overall I just think Cam Johnson's a better offensive player than Michael Porter Jr., just because he can actually do things with the ball if need be. If they can find a way for the team to be able to do what they need to do offensively, I think last year they were a plus 10 net rating. I think the year before they were a plus 12. I think this could be the best starting lineup they've ever had. And ultimately, I think with the depth being better than it's been, with the rotation player being better than it's been, and now moving into this bracket and this kind of tier as a basketball team, telling y'all, man, I think we're in for a special, special season. And also, this is another one. 3-point rate. Getting your 3-point rate up. It doesn't have to get to even middle of the pack, but it doesn't need to be last anymore. But all the way around, I think the Denver Nuggets should be really confident. I think I would have them as a top 2 finals contender. I'm picking them to win the finals this year if they're healthy. And I'm excited. I can't wait for the season to get started, man. The Nuggets are in a very good situation. I'm excited to watch basketball and to see how everybody operates and how they continue to figure out with the young guys and with the new veterans they've added. But, y'all, that's going to do it for today here at Locked On Nuggets. I'm Swiping. Make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe. Give us a 5-star review on Apple, iTunes, and Spotify. Y'all know what time it is. See ya on the other side.